Hello there. Welcome. I haven't done anything for a couple of weeks, but I'm throwing something into the mix which I've been hoping to do or planning to do for a while now. If you're used to the sort of van life, outdoorsy stuff that I do, I want to introduce another element which has been a lifelong interest of mine, and that's film photography, in particular lomography, which, if you're not familiar with lomography, I'll explain in a minute. Yeah, like most people, I'm somebody that does mostly digital photography. It's so convenient and easy. Doing vlogging or even social media stuff or just stuff, family stuff, whatever, outdoor stuff. It's so easy to go out with your digital camera, take images, come back, tweak them a bit, show them to your friends. Digital rules, doesn't it? And most people these days, I think, are taking photographs on their phones. I mean, I take a lot of photographs on my iPhone and the quality is pretty good. But I have a lifelong interest in film photography, which goes back really to, I suppose, the 1970s, when I got my first serious camera. It was a Russian, or Soviet as it was then, Zorky camera. And in those days, I used to do a lot of black and white photography, and I used to do my own developing. I had an enlarger, I'd do my own prints, and it was a fascinating area to be in. I used to love it. And then over the years, I sort of generally lost interest. I sold my developing gear. I carried on taking film, but I'd just send it off to Boots or wherever and get it developed, and it was just colour. And it went on. I used to do a lot of slide photography. Occasionally I'd get photographs published in outdoor magazines, etc. But since the digital revolution, which I suppose is the turn of the century when they really started to make an inroad, it's taken a back seat, and film photography is something that every so often I'll rekindle my enthusiasm, and I'll get a fresh burst of enthusiasm. But at the moment I'm going through a bit of a film renaissance, so that's what I want to talk about. Yeah, over the coming months I want to do some film camera reviews. I've got a selection here which I'll show you in a minute, but well, I suppose it wouldn't be reviews because some of the cameras are about 50 years old, so reappraisals are probably more appropriate. But yeah, I wanted to talk about, I'm interested in lomography. If you don't know what lomography is, then it basically relates to this little guy. This is the Lomo LCA. I don't know if you can focus on that. Yeah, this little guy, the Lomo LCA, was a Soviet-era camera that came out, I think it's the late 70s, 80s, and it's an exact copy of the Casina CX. Now, I don't know if the Soviets bought the license from the Japanese company, as they did with, if people in the UK will remember, Lada cars, the Lada 127, which was based on the Fiat, what was it, 127? No, it was a Fiat 127. I don't know what the Lada model was. But anyway, the Lada was based on the Fiat. And in a way, this is the Lada of the camera world. And I had one of these when it came out. I paid about £20 for it. Pretty agricultural build quality at the time, like a lot of Soviet cameras, the Zenith, for example, and the Zorky. And what I remember about it was the amazing sort of saturation and quirks. You get vignetting, which is black edges to your photographs. And okay, I didn't get it in mine, but light leaks, people would say they get light leaks. And it was either annoying or quirky or charming, depending on how you view your images. But it basically, my Lomo broke. I gave it to somebody and I forgot all about Lomos till I read about lomography in a Guardian or a newspaper, and it appeared that some Austrian art students were I think they were in the Soviet Union, and they saw a pile of these Lomos for sale in a camera shop. They bought some. They loved the quirkiness, they loved the saturation, the vignetting, the light leaks, and one thing led to another, and they started to bring them back, sell them, distribute them amongst their friends, and pretty soon it started to really take off. Eventually they bought the license to import and sell these Lomo cameras, and the position is now that I believe it's the same people. The Lomography is now an Austrian-based company. They've obviously bought the company the rights to make the Lomo from the Russian St. Peter. Lomo stands for the Leningrad. What is it now? Leningrad Optical Mechanical Organization, which is Leningrad is now St. Petersburg, and the company now makes a whole range of cameras. Very hipsterish cameras, and the price of this was a £20 camera. Today it's made in China, and it's selling for I think it's £329, which if you're in America is over $400. Which, and as I say, they're made in China now. I mean, it's really gone a long way from its St. Petersburg roots, the Lomo. And the Lomo lent its name to Lomography, but it doesn't end there, because they're basically a holy trinity of Lomo cameras. The Lomo LCA, the Chinese-made Holga, the medium format camera and a 35mm, and the Chinese-made Diana. They are basically the holy trinity of Lomo cameras, but now it encompasses a whole range of cameras. Like I've got some, like this little point and shoot Nikon, which I haven't tested yet actually. I bought a few as a job lot, untested. This actually works. I haven't got a battery for this yet. This is a Konica. But basically these sort of point and shoot cameras from the 90s are now considered to be Lomo cameras, as is this quirky little camera. This is a split cam, which I saw on Awesome Cameras, a great US analog film channel, which I recommend you go and seek out. This has basically got two lenses. You can shut them off, take a photograph, pause it, or stop the wind, return it so you can take double exposures, shut one lens, open the other, and basically do an upside down so you can get mirrored images, or you can put a dog's head on a person's body, or do all sorts of weird, quirky things. It's basically a toy camera, and that's what Lomography is about. It's about photography as art rather than photography as a technical creation. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like chocolate box landscape photography. I don't know if you're interested in photography. You're probably aware of Thomas Heaton. He's a very successful landscape photographer. He has 300 and odd thousand subscribers. His videos get like 70 or 80,000 hits. He churns out vlogs. Like, I think there are more episodes on Thomas Heaton's channel than there are episodes of Coronation Street, which is a British soap, which seems to be on every day. The cynic in me says it's rather a cynical money-making ploy by Thomas there, because obviously he's making a lot of money from these vlogs, and a lot of the stuff he puts out is rather rehashed and regurgitated and contrived. But he makes beautiful videos, and he's very successful, and he makes beautiful photographs. But I would say that he's more an image technician rather than a photographer. Yeah, perhaps it's controversial, but if you see a Thomas Heaton video, then he'll go out in some beautiful location in Namibia or Alaska or somewhere. He'll have thousands upon thousands of pounds worth of lenses and cameras with him. He'll go to a perfect location. He'll take a perfect image. He'll go back to the studio, Lightroom. He'll say, we'll get rid of that boulder. That branch is in the way. We'll get rid of that. We'll dial up the contrast. We'll dial down the highlights. We'll up the saturation. Quite often the images. It's nothing like it came out the can, so to speak. And it's, as I say, it's smoke and mirrors, really. It's, of course, you need an eye to take a photograph, and he's certainly got a good eye. But a lot of the image is so heavily manipulated using, amazing, very expensive gear. That it's basically, if you've got Thomas Heaton here, you can lomography over there. It's 180 degrees apart. They couldn't be more different. Lomography is art photography, and sort of the style of Thomas Heaton is technical image manipulation. I don't think I've ever seen Thomas Heaton take a photograph without a tripod either. Bit of a contrast to James Poppis, a photographer I like. He hates tripods, and he's got a much more cavalier approach. I like James's approach. Thomas is quite a conservative approach, which I don't really like, and I don't like his photographs. So there, but yeah, lomography. It's all about experiment. It's shooting from the hip. It lends itself to street photography very much. It doesn't really lend itself to landscape photography. But it's something. I mean, film is obviously expensive. A film, the cheapest you can buy a film on eBay is, I think, you buy a batch of 10 for. I've just bought a batch of 10 for about 28 quid, so it's about 280 a roll, and that's just the basic Kodak stuff. You pay a lot more for some of the like Ektachrome and the expensive film, and black and white. And of course, you've got the developing, and so it's expensive, and you've got to wait. You take your photograph, you've got to wait, so that puts a lot of people off. But it does lend itself to creativity because you're paying for film and every shot counts. You can't just shoot willy-nilly like you can with digital and hope you get one good image out of 20 or something. It calls for more creativity. If you're using these like little cheap cameras, well, say the Lomo's not cheap anymore, it's a bloody expensive camera. You can buy a decent DSLR for what you pay for a new one of these now. But they're quirky, and they lend themselves to some amazing image, some really sort of like arty images where light and saturation and shadow and vignetting and everything all combine to make some pretty unique, arty, beautiful images. So over the next couple of months, I'll still be doing van life and outdoorsy stuff. I want to do some climbing, hill walking, wild camping. So that's still going to be the main core of activity. But I'll be doing the odd reappraisal. I've got, for example, this is a one I want to do. This is again a Lomo Soviet era medium format camera. But I've got a hack. I want to use a 35mm film in this medium format camera. So I'll show you the hack. This is an amazing beast of a camera. It's I'll do a full review and show you how to use it when I get round to it. Come on, go back. It's a weird thing, this Loma, but they've got a cult. Oh God, they've got the strap cult. Yeah, they've got a cult following. This is, I don't know. Can you see that? Can you catch that in the? Yeah, that's the Lomo 166B. Coming to more later times. This is a lovely camera. This is late 90s Canon EOS. It came out at the cusp of the digital revolution, when digital was starting to become popular. I used this the other day actually, but it's a beautiful camera to use. It's as easy to use as a digital camera. It's a film camera, of course. Dead easy to load. It's all motorized. Does everything for you. I use it on aperture priority, and it's a lovely camera to use. This is a little roly, tiny thing. This came out in 1966. At the time, it was the smallest film camera in the world. It's a 35mm camera. A famous British rock climber gave me this, actually. There's a friend of mine who's no longer with us. And you can see why they were popular cameras with climbers, because they're absolutely tiny, weeny little things. They were eventually overtaken by Minolta, who brought out a even smaller film camera, but that's one I want to do. Yeah, so these point and shoots, yeah, they're becoming amazingly popular again. Actually, and expensive. There's a camera called the Yashica YT, and they came out in the '90s, and they're selling for £300 or £400 now. There's an Olympus which sells for £300 or £400. There's a lot of these cameras which are actually point and shoot compacts, which are becoming popular again. So that's what I'm planning to do. If you're into photography, then drop in. If you come here because you're into van life or outdoorsy stuff, then perhaps you won't be interested, but then you might be. You might see what I come up with. I'll be doing tests, taking them out into the location, into the city, into industrial landscapes, which really lend themselves, like old quarries and things, which lend themselves to film photography. So yeah, check in and I'll see you again. Okay, bye for now.
There's no sunrise. There was supposed to be a sunrise, but there's no sunrise. Right, anyway, this video is sponsored by Lumix, and today I'm going to talk about one of the main reasons I chose Lumix cameras, mainly incredible stabilization. Also, Happy New Year, by the way.
The Holga is probably one of my favorite cameras ever produced, and there was some sad news in the last couple weeks. Some of you may have heard that the company that makes these in China has announced that they are no longer going to produce Holgas. In fact, it went a step further to say that they've already shut down the manufacturing facility, sold off all the machining equipment, and whatever is left in stock on shelves in the stores now are the last of the Holgas. And
what's up, guys? I'm Joey from awesomecameras.com, and I'm here with my buddy Derek Street. You may have been seeing him around on my Instagram, a little bit on the blog. We've been going out and shooting together lately. We decided to start doing some video. This is the first thing we've done so far, and this is going to be part of the Awesome Cameras Under $20 series. So our idea today is we're literally going to take you along with us. We're going out to some thrift stores. We're going to find some cameras that are under $20. And same day, we're going to go out and shoot them, get the film developed, and show you our results.